Hey, Mythic Fam. Thanks for tuning in and joining me on this podcast adventure. This is Weird Mythic Podcast. I hope everyone is having a great week. If you have been following the Lori Daybell Vallow case, she was convicted of murder again. Even the juror said she shouldn't have represented herself in this case. So if nobody knows about the Doomsday Mom, I don't think I've covered it at all. I don't want to cover it, but it is something I've been following for a long time. She is going to go back to court again. I can't remember which state. It might be Arizona. I can't remember which state it is. But she's going to go back to court in the next couple months for the conspiracy, another conspiracy to murder for her niece's husband. So I'm really curious to see if she will represent herself again. I think she is, but I mean, she just lost this one for the same thing. So I don't know if anyone is following that case and wants to talk about how insane the entire story is, please hit me up. So this week's episode, I am going to be talking about pirates. This might become a series since there is so much about pirates and there's a lot of pirates that are just not talked about enough. The two that I will be talking about and covering today are both women, and I didn't even know of them until I started researching pirates. And it wasn't even like me typing in like female pirates or anything like that. It just happened to come up when I just did a simple Google search on pirates and looking through a list of them and finding both of them and thought they were both interesting. I'm also going to talk about Davy Jones' Locker just a little bit. I wanted to find more pirate myths and more pirate lore, but of course, Davy Jones was the only thing I could think of. I also thought about researching the Fountain of Youth and pirates, and there really wasn't as much there as I thought there would be. So, those who sought after the Fountain of Youth were also pirates, but a lot of them seemed to be like more pirateers or like just explorers or shit like that. So I couldn't really focus on that part. But let's go ahead and get to the episode. I'm going to start off with the legend of Davy Jones' Locker. Who and what is Davy Jones' Locker? Davy is known as a sea demon or an entity of some sort. And the locker is just the bottom of the sea floor, like the bottom of it. I understand why he is seen as a demon. In some myths, Davy Jones will take the souls of those who died at sea to his locker and torture them. So I can see how he can be seen as a demon. But I don't see Davy Jones as exactly a demon. I know he will take the souls of those that die at sea. He will take all of them down to his locker. But that honestly just kind of reminded me more of Hades. It's not really heaven or hell. But you tell me what you think about that. I mean, there was something saying he was a demon, but I couldn't really, he just brought the souls who died at sea or, anybody who has died in a shipwreck to this place. I don't know. It just didn't seem exactly like a demon thing. It was just more of somebody who would take the lost souls somewhere where they could all be together. Books written in the 1700s introduced the world to Davy Jones, more as like a god of death, which is kind of, I think, more what I'm hinting at. And the locker is more of a final resting spot for the sailors who died at sea. The legend of Davy Jones's Locker can be dated back to the 1500s. Davy Jones could have been the nautical term that sailors and pirates gave to the devil. Could have been. But like I said, a god of death or, like the Grim Reaper. Pirates would use the word Davy Jones or Davy Jones' Locker for a few different metaphors or reasons. You can curse at someone to go to Davy Jones' Locker, like wishing death on another person. You can also say to somebody, see you to Davy Jones, meaning you will kill that person. The term to awaken Davy Jones references a storm approaching, and the term to be in Davy's grip, that means someone is close to death or they are very frightened. Davy Jones might have even been a real person. There are a few rumors as to who he could have been. There was a pirate with the name David Jones in the 17th century. He didn't have a good reputation, and he might have been callous and was actually given the name Devil of the Sea. And this is only by some. And then again, this is from the 17th century. Let's all just remember that, okay? But I mean, it says that he was a pirate and he didn't have a good reputation. And this David Jones, or Davy, was known to be around like the Indian Ocean. There was lots of piracy around there in the 1600s. There was also this British pub owner who had the name Duffer Jones. And when people would fall asleep in his pub, he would actually take that drunk, passed out person and put them on a boat or a ship. And that Duffer, or Davy Jones, would actually get paid for each person he would actually just bring onto the ship, because by the time that person woke up from their drunken stupor, they were kind of just forced to work on the ship until they could get off on the next port or coastal town. And I'm sure they would just hope that it would be the same place that they were abducted from. Kind of fucked up to do. So what do you guys think? Do you think Davy Jones was a pirate or a British pub owner? Or is the term Davy Jones locker just a reference for all sailors and pirates as a type of afterlife? It's a way for them to count on seeing Davy Jones. It's him taking them to his locker as they die at sea. I think it's more of something like that, but you guys let me know in the comments, or, send me an email. So let's get into the pirates already. And the first pirate that I want to talk about, she is from Ireland, and her name is Grace O'Malley. And before anyone calls me out, I am 100% aware that she is Gaelic, and I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. I don't want to try at this point. If you've listened to any other episodes of mine, you know that I am horrible at most pronunciation, so I can't even try the Gaelic. Okay, call me out, but I am very much aware that's not exactly her name. But you could type in Grace O'Malley. They'll tell you how to pronounce it. She was known as a pirate queen. There's very little documented about Grace's early life. They do know that her dad was a chieftain and a pirate in his own right. He had the nickname Black Oak. Grace was born off the west coast of Ireland around the year, or possibly around the year 1530, and she might have been educated at a monastery. But at the age of 11, her dad had passed away. And really, even before that, they know that she spent most, if not all of her early life at sea. But what's really cool about Grace is that she did have an older brother, but after her dad's passing, Grace inherited her dad's position within their clan, and she ran her dad's ships. Grace did marry twice. Her husband was Donnell O'Flaherty, and she had 2 sons with Donnell. Donnell was also a chieftain. Her second husband, Sir Richard Borg, she had 1 son with. And I did read somewhere that she had a daughter, but I think it was just like in one spot, and it might be in my notes somewhere, but it was like one place said that. One of Grace's sons, Tibbet, while giving birth to him, she was at sea on one of her ships. And legend says the day he was born, the ship that he and his mother were on was attacked by Algerian pirates. Grace, right after giving birth, decided to help out her crew and her mates battling these other pirates. They were on her own ship. She's gonna, defend herself. Come on. Grace and her men were all able to make the Algerian pirates retreat, and she won her ship back, again, after giving birth. Grace was a force, not just like in battle, but at sea. She was able to navigate the Atlantic tides and currents, all while using stars and compasses. Her ships were designed to be like close to the shoreline, and the type of sails she used were called lateen. Go ahead and correct me if I mispronounced that, but I think it's just lateen. I guess these sails kind of made her more maneuverable in shallow waters. Her piracy got her as far south as Spain. And she actually would trade goods like iron, different types of weapons, sometimes wine and fish. She also went as far north as Scotland. One of the biggest ways that Grace could get cash, though, was by stealing cattle. She would steal the cattle from surrounding areas, then bring them back to Ireland and sell them to those in her area. Another way that Grace would get money was by stopping other ships. And while stopping them, she would make them pay a toll before crossing through the parts of her waters on that side of Ireland. At the later end of the 16th century, the English monarchy made a big effort to rid the Irish of a lot of things. And one of those was to get rid of the chieftains and the pirates, and they were starting to get targeted. The English would capture and take away all land and property from those who did not comply. Grace did not comply, obviously. Grace then linked up with the other Irish lords to rebel and fight against the English. Grace O'Malley was commanding about 20 ships and over 200 men at this point. During the rebellions, Grace's oldest son, Owen, was murdered by an English governor's brother. Grace could only think about revenge. Eventually, Grace was captured by the English, but the Irish chieftains were able to get her out of the gallows. The chieftains traded multiple English hostages for Grace's freedom. Although she was set free, the English took her cattle and her home, and Grace was forced to live on her ships. In 1593, Grace's youngest son, Tibbet, the one I talked about earlier, how she had to fight pirates after giving birth to, he was actually captured by the English in 1593. This time, however, Grace did not, fight and rebel like she had with her eldest son. Instead of going against the Navy and the governors, Grace wrote a letter to Queen Elizabeth I. Not only did the Queen receive the letters, but she also wrote back to Grace and on what the Queen was willing to give up to Grace and what Grace was willing to back away from, as long as her and her son could go free and she could get her land and cattle back. That's all she wanted. The Queen set up a meeting with Grace in September of 1953. Now, this is all documented. There's letters back and forth. These are actually documented. This is the few parts of Grace's life that we know are 100% accurate because we have these letters and they met up. Now, during the meeting, it is said they did not speak English. They only spoke Latin. Queen Elizabeth I agreed to the terms with Grace to let her son Tibbet go and give Grace her lands back, and Grace would retire her pirate career. It is said, however, that although her son was let go and Grace went back home, the English governors in that area of Ireland did not give her back her land or cattle. Now, there wasn't much after that from what I could find about Grace. The records get even more scarce, and the end of her life after meeting with the Queen is she had some place to live. I think she did stop her piracy at this point, but it was soon after that meeting in, what was it, 1593 that things get a little scarce. But to say the least, Grace was a key person in the 16th century in Ireland, defending her land and never hiding her womanhood ever. It is believed that Grace passed away around the year 1603, which have made her around the age of 73. Now, let me know in the comments if you know any other myths about Grace O'Malley or know something that maybe I had missed. Because, like I said, the only thing I could really find that was concrete evidence besides her just being a pirate and having so many ships and where she was at, in history is just these letters between her and Queen Elizabeth I from, the 1593. And I mean, I love that we have those records. But again, if you know of any other myths or lore around Grace O'Malley, please let me know. Now, the second pirate that I want to talk about is from China. There had actually been pirates in Chinese history since pretty much 2000 BCE, but they were more like sea bandits is what they were referred to. And most of these sea bandits were actually fleeing slavery and would live at sea. They would then sail to land, usually at night, and steal all the food and goods from the coastal towns. Eventually, a lot of these people would get grouped together and became what is known as pirates. The first recorded pirate in Chinese history was a man named Zheng Lu. He rebelled against the Han Dynasty in 109. Now, the female pirate that I'm going to talk about, her name is Zheng Yi Sao. And like Grace, the beginning of Sao's life is unknown and not documented. It is believed that she was born in a coastal city around 1775. One of the first accounts of Sao's life before the piracy was that she worked on a floating brothel. Now, while working on this floating brothel, she got the reputation of being a really good businesswoman. And I almost went down a rabbit hole of the history of floating brothels. So I might do more research on that because it's just interesting. Now, around the year 1801, Sao married a man named Yi, or Chang Wan. Yi, as I'm going to call him, Yi was a well-known pirate when he married Sao. Yi gathered and restored power to the Chinese pirates along the coastal borders of China. Sao actually ended up helping him with a lot of this. Sao and Yi would get a lot of pirate crews together, and they would get them to work together to overthrow the Chinese Navy presence while plundering the coastal towns. Yi and Sao were able to get 70,000 men together, and then they just split them up into small gangs, and they got what was needed from each town doing different things. They pretty much made gangs. I mean, it's really great that they could get everyone together and split them up like that and have that type of camaraderie among all the pirates. Sadly, in 1807, Yi passed away, and without hesitation, Sao took control of her husband's crews, becoming a chief pirate. This solidified her loyalty and importance to the pirate confederation that controlled the South China Sea during the 19th century. She also placed her adopted son Bao as second in command. Bao was Yi's son. And just to put this out there, later on, Sao and Bao end up getting married. I don't remember what year. I don't even think I have it in here, but they do end up getting married later on. Anyways, Sao expanded her fleet of pirates within 2 years after her husband's passing. Sao had attained 600 ships, each with 40 cannons on board. This gave her about 40,000 men also. She divided all of them up into 6 fleets, with 1 person in command at each fleet. Each fleet had a specific flag, and these ships would attack anyone from Hong Kong to Vietnam. Now, Sao did have some rules. You got that many people listening and, following your direction. You got to have some rules. The last 2 I'm going to talk about are a little like, you never know. Well, at least 1 or 2. Anyways, Sao's rules for anyone under her in her fleets. A pirate may not go ashore without permission. A first punishment for breaking this rule was to have an ear slit, and the second punishment was execution. Captured goods are to be registered before being shared out. An individual's ship that captures a cargo may keep 1/5, and the rest is to be added to a general prize fund for the entire fleet. I mean, that seems fair. Now this one. No abuse of women, captured or otherwise, is permitted without permission from the quartermaster. A pirate may buy a captured woman for his wife for $40 if she is not to be held for ransom. Yeah, interesting. Now, townsfolk must be paid for their provisions. I don't know if that was always happening, to be honest. I don't think that was happening at all. And last one, a man who is unfaithful to his wife could face a punishment of death. Oh, like I said, those other ones are like interesting. So, but those are her rules, and it worked. One way that Sao made money was the same way that Grace O'Malley did. She would put up tolls for anyone who was going through her area of the ocean and the sea. Sao's main area of pirating was around the Canton area of China. Anything from other pirates or merchant ships would be attacked by Sao's pirate gang. Those who were on the ships would be ransomed off, or they would be tortured or murdered. Those captured and held on her ships were obviously kept in horrible, horrible conditions. As we all can imagine, a moving ship at the bottom, prison, all bad. Right? We've all seen Pirates of the Caribbean. There was one sailor who had the name Richard Glasspool. He was held for 4 months. Yeah, for 4 months as a hostage on one of her ships. And he described he only survived by eating caterpillars and rice. And this was alongside the rats. He described that those who were captured were given a choice to either be imprisoned or they could just be, eventually it was death was what would happen. Or they could just join the crew. Okay? Imprisoned, which would lead to death, or join the crew. And if you were lucky, maybe you got ransomed. Glasspool himself, however, wasn't ransomed, but he did have gunnery skills. And he was actually used to operate some of the cannons for Sao. He saw her pirates attack small towns, kill innocent people. He also witnessed some of the men decapitating victims and wearing their heads as necklaces. Sao had a very specific type of ship. She sailed what were called junk ships. These ships had no keel or retractable rudder. I don't know what a keel is. I know what a rudder is, though. But yeah. But I guess because of this, they could enter shallow water. And although her ships had cannons on them, her pirates were known to fight like hand to hand. Sao and her fleet of pirates were basically undefeated for a time. There's a story of how Sao was able to defeat part of the Chinese Navy. One of the battles between her fleet and the Navy lasted 16 hours. After that 16 hours, the admiral of the Chinese Navy committed suicide. The second attack, which was, provoked by Sao had her men swim through the ocean, climb onto their enemy ships. They were stealthy enough to not only sneak onto these ships, but then they took control of these ships, used those ships to set fire to the coastal town nearby. About 80 villagers were murdered, and their heads were hung on trees as a warning to anyone who would dare fight Sao. I have in that same article, it'll be in the show notes, that Sao had eventually killed over 10,000 civilians by the end of her piracy. Now, the Chinese Navy did not have the manpower to stop Sao from pirating and pillaging the coastal towns and forcing ships to pay tolls or give up their goods. Rumor says that the Chinese Navy, British Navy, Portuguese Navy, and even all their pirates, none of them were successful at taking Sao down and stopping her. She stole, she murdered, she sold people into slavery. It wasn't until she accepted a pardon from the Chinese government that she disbanded her fleet of pirates. Now, this is awesome. So around the year 1810, Sao surrendered, demanded a pardon from the Chinese government. But she did it with style, man. Sao took a fleet of 260 ships, all of them with their individual flags up, and sailed into the harbor at Canton. This is where she walked up to the Navy and demanded a pardon. Her husband Bao was able to keep all of the ships and was actually placed into the Chinese Imperial Army. And actually, a lot of her pirates were able to get into the Chinese Imperial Army. And I guess Bao kind of went a little high up. Her pirates could also keep all the booty, but would give up their ships and weapons. And they did give up their ships and weapons. In 1822, Bao had passed away, and Sao then moved back to her hometown with her 11-year-old son. While back in her hometown, she started her own business. She ran a gambling hall where she might have had some type of smuggling going on, but I could never find out exactly what she was smuggling, just that there was smuggling going on. Like, well, what? She was there until her death in maybe the year 1844 and possibly at the age of 69. So, everybody, let me know what your thoughts are on Sao, on Grace O'Malley. If you know any pirate lore besides Davy Jones' locker or something like that, send them my way. Let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments, or go and send me an email to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. I will answer. Also, don't forget to like and follow me on Instagram, Weird Mythic Podcast, Twitter, Weird Mythic, TikTok, Weird Mythic, YouTube, Weird Mythic Podcast. My link trees are also on there if you want to check out any merch. Everybody have a great week, a good weekend. It's starting to become summer here in California, and it's going to be hard for me to be in the house, but I still promise to get at least one episode out a month. Yeah, of course, I would like to do more, but let's be real, it might not happen. But thanks again. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Bye.